Hello everyone, welcome back to the DreamHack Open 2015 live from tour. I'm Richard Lewis. Next to me is our resident expert, Wax Angel. And we've switched the desk up a bit. We've given Apollo a little bit of a rest because he was getting a bit too hyped in that last game. So what we've done is we've kept Todd on because he knows how to marshal his energy. He actually spent the break outside trying to get someone. Hey, you want an autograph? Anyone, please? And no one wanted one, so he's feeling good.
Nobody's laughing.
No one's here. They're all coming back. They're all getting in the chairs for the next game.
There's got a few people in.
And
okay,
fresh from another 24-hour streaming marathon, we have got Nathanius in there. How are you doing, brother?
Right from the very end of yesterday's. I'm feeling great, though.
Oh, you look it. So this is the game I'm really psyched about. Like, obviously, they're all good and everything, you know, but this next game we've got coming up, for me, this is the one that I'm really pumped about. Obviously, we saw only one foreigner make it through into the final 8, but it was Harstem. A lot of people were thinking it was going to be Snoot. It wasn't. Harstem beat Snoot. And he's been saying for a long time, this is my year, this is my year. Hasn't been his year. Maybe it is this year.
He's up against the most beatable opponent. When you really think about who these guys get opportunities to practice against, Harstem, of course, being from Europe. HyuN spent a lot of time playing in WCS Europe as well, playing in the European ladder, living in Europe. And I think that compared to any of the other Koreans that are competing in this tournament, except maybe like Patience, this is someone that Harstem should actually have a lot more practice against than the others. And it's got a pretty reasonable chance, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, Harstem said yesterday that going up against HyuN, he did feel he was actually a beatable opponent, which, you know, foreigners don't often say that about Korean players.
These two are probably pretty happy about meeting each other. Like, if you look at the 8 players in the round of 8, maybe these two are like, I guess the Wax Angel. You
okay,
you want to say what I think you're thinking and what everybody knows?
If you don't want to put it in words, I'll say it. Yeah, it's probably the weakest matchup in this bracket, but still, it's an interesting matchup because it's a foreigner versus a Korean, and there's a really decent chance that foreigner will actually win. Just like Nate said, HyuN, of the Koreans who are remaining in the tournament, he just hasn't been doing that well as the rest lately. And, you know, like, this is something Nathan alludes to a lot. He says there are some Koreans who just don't lose the worst players. If we're just always so solid, they're never going to lose someone who's worse than them. HyuN's not that kind of player. Like, he's shown that he'll drop series, he'll drop maps to European Protosses. He's lost to like Lil Bao this tournament. He's lost to Showtime in like a long series. Like, recently, obviously he's winning more than he's losing against European Protosses, but he's definitely beatable.
Yeah, he had a pretty poor time recently as well at the most recent Gfinity. He looked very, very shaky. He was a bit of a up and down kind of, you know, giving maps away. It looked really bad. Even when he was winning games, he just looked a bit out of sorts. And you know, I remember HyuN, you know, at one time he was, you know, a very accomplished player, someone you could, you know, back to win games. So what's gone wrong?
Well, the thing is, he was living abroad for a very long time, you know, living in Germany, practicing in Europe. He wasn't necessarily practicing at the highest level for quite some time over in Korea. Now he's moved back there, and it's been pretty hard, I feel like, you know, compared to, I think it was 2013, where he was very high up there. At some point, he was first in WCS World Rankings, having top finishes in every single, you know, big tournament he was entering. Since then, maybe, you know, he's been practicing a little bit less. He's been having a hard time, you know, having that fire that you need when you're a pro gamer to keep on practicing, keep on doing well. And he's trying to get back there, though, and he's one of those players that through the time has had his up and down, but always, you know, at times has, I guess, impressed, you know. He's a previous DreamHack champion as well. Yeah. So up against somebody like Harstem here, I still feel like it's a very open match in terms of what we might see happen, and I'm not sure I have a clear favorite personally.
Well, just to talk a little bit more about HyuN as well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, Wax. I think I saw a recent interview where he was talking about, you know, I'm getting a bit old now, and, you know, obviously stuff about the military is kind of looming, I think it is as well. I mean, is this tough, like, when you get to that sort of age, you know, and you're still trying to be a professional, you need that fire that Todd's talking about, you need that focus, you've got young guys snapping at your heels?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, when we're talking about like why he's slumping lately, like, this guy has been around since Brood War. He's been around for like almost a decade, and that's like, in his early years, like, he did like 14-hour days, all of that Spartan Korean training, and it's almost like, it's just impressive that he's even this good now, that he's like in the mix now. Like, he doesn't have to win a championship to impress anyone. He's like stayed in this so long and been relevant for so long.
In the esports world, he's basically 100 years old.
Yeah.
Not a good thing.
Whereas Nathanius just looks 100 years old.
Thanks, Richard.
But you can see the head-to-head here, and very interesting because you'll notice that telling statistic at the bottom, Nathanius. You're good with numbers, especially subscriber numbers. You can tell me that exactly what that means. He's like beat him like, what, is that 76% of the time they've met?
Well, I mean, on paper that looks pretty bad, but you know, this is DreamHack, and if there were ever a tournament where shenanigans happen, this is it. You know, this is where Harstem comes out. He completely wrecks and surprises. There's no shortage of good PvZ to watch. You know, if there are matchups where HyuN has dropped, especially against non-Korean players, big important games, it's in that matchup. You know, you look at players that have been, there's actually players that are consistently successful playing against him in PvZ, and I think immediately back to Puck, who plays he's someone who's always played a very gateway-heavy style, and now that that's coming into the meta, you know, there's not even the Swarm host, which HyuN was never really a fan of, but the style is still good, and it's still, I think, probably one of the better ways to take the game against him.
But he stepped up a lot. He had some tough times against Zerg, I remember. You know, he lost to Cyril 2 seasons ago in WCS. In Challenger, didn't make it to Premier. That was a big surprise. Harstem, supposedly, you know, one of the better European players, definitely very high up there. And then this season, again against Cyril in Challenger, but this time he won, and here he won against Snoot in this tournament. So he stepped up his game a lot against Zerg, and I can't wait to see how well he does against somebody like HyuN here.
Well, we'll get a little sneak peek now because we're going to go over to the stage with Smix. She's with the players. How are you doing, Smix?
I'm doing great, Richard. Thank you so much for asking. And Dor, it is time to introduce the players for our second quarterfinal match of the day. Please give a warm welcome. It is HyuN and Harstem. HyuN, you are a previous DreamHack Open champion. You won DreamHack Open Valencia in 2013, but since then you've struggled to have that same sort of brilliance that you experienced back then. You reached the round of 8 last year, but that's as far as you've gone. And as a previous champion, I'm sure you're greedy to feel that trophy one more time. So what do you have to say to all the fans that are here cheering for you?
드림핵에서 이제 우승을 한 이후 이제 제가 이렇다 할 성적이 없었는데 오랜만에 8강에 올라온 것 같아요. 그래서 이번에 요즘 게임도 잘 되고 해서 꼭 우승을 해야 될 것 같고 이렇게 많은 팬분들 앞에 서는 게 또 오랜만이어가지고 좋은 경기 하고 싶어요.
So HyuN says, you are definitely right. After I won DreamHack Open Valencia, I wasn't able to show the best results. I think the best I've done is get to the round of 8. And now, after a long time, I've reached the round of 8 one more time. I'm feeling really confident about my play lately. And guys, all of you in the audience are amazing. And because of you guys, I want to do even better. And I hope that I'll be able to win this tournament for you guys. Harstem. Yesterday, you explained how ecstatic you were to make it to the main stage here on day 2, on this big main stage in Tour France. I also saw that you tweeted earlier that you noticed the crowd and saw how sick they were and you didn't want to disappoint them. I'm sure you have something to say for all the fans that are cheering for you here.
Well, I've played in a lot of countries, but I must say France must be the most amazing crowd I've played in front of.
Well, there you have it. I am excited to see which results will unfold and which of these players will move on to face parting in the semifinals. Players shake hands. It's time to get this game ready and underway. But before we get started, let's hear what the experts have to say about this series.
Thanks a lot for that, Smix. I've got to say, man, seeing Harstem on the stage at a DreamHack, I don't have any kids that I know about. But I imagine this is what it feels like to be a parent. Like, I'm welling up a little bit for him. He's such a great guy. Like, I've watched this guy since the beginning of his career, meteoric rise, and just awesome feeling for him to sort of be there right now, you know, when other foreigners have maybe, you know, been there ahead of him for so long. So
it's funny because I feel like he probably doesn't feel about it the same way as you do.
I'm sure, yeah.
Think of you as a fat figure at all.
He's like, who's this guy? Like the creepy uncle. Like, but no, seriously. Like, honestly, the sort of development he's had over the course of this year, I think, is really worth talking about. This is somebody that, you know, I think we knew he was a good foreigner, but I think we kind of felt he was like a second-tier foreigner. You know, there's people ahead of him, your Bunnies, your Snoots, obviously, in recent times. But I think he's come into his own now in 2015. Like, he seems way more relaxed than he was. You know, back when he was on Fnatic, he's getting good runs into tournaments and just seems to be improving all the time.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. I think you made a really good point of mentioning it when we saw him play versus Snoot, was that if he wants to become recognized in that top tier of Europeans, these are where he needs to pick the games up. Picking the matchup against Snoot was big. This one would be even bigger to get him further up in that European ladder.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, you can see the French crowd have really embraced him here as well, which is great. I'm sure that's going to give him a big lift because, you know, we can't underplay this. This is like uncharted territory for Harstem. You know, he's not been on stage and, you know, played in front of crowds like this very often in his career. Nerves going to be a factor, do you think?
I think he's prepared well enough mentally. I mean, he's been waiting for this for a long time. He's been calling out the year of Harstem for a very long time as well. He's featured these moments many times in his head now. It's all about finally making it happen. I don't think there's going to be too much nerves involved here. Even though, you know, looking at the crowd is kind of, you know, being very high on the cliff and looking down. It can be really, really scary when you see that many people in front of you watching you play.
French guys turned up again, right? So, so let's just talk about predictions, how we think this one's going to go and how we think this match is going to play out. I'll come to you first, Wax. You're our resident genius. So how do you think HyuN and Harstem are going to match up against each other?
Well, you know, Harstem, he's rarely made it to this phase of tournament. This is his first time. And I don't know if he has the experience or series planning to win. But at the same time, like one big advantage he has is that he said before, he practiced PvZ very, very hard for his WCS Challenger match, even going so far as to practice like 25 times against one specific cheese on one map. Like he's like very, very well practiced for PvZ. So even if he's not like, you know, that experience at this kind of stage, this kind of long series, just the amount of practice he put in this matchup will serve him well. I think HyuN, being the veteran, it probably has a small advantage here. But you know, there's a very real chance of an upset here.
Guys, your predictions?
Are you saying Harstem's going to win?
I can't go that far. I'm sorry.
So you're saying HyuN's going to win then?
I'm trying to like say HyuN's going to win while hedging as hard as possible.
And I want you to be wrong so bad right now.
Yeah.
HyuN,
so pick someone.
HyuN.
Okay, he's going for HyuN. So what are your predictions, guys?
I think I have to let my bias once again show, and I'm going to say Harstem here. We have only one foreigner here in this tournament, and he needs to advance because I guess in a way he maybe represents you know, foreigners and maybe even France here in his own way.
Yeah, in his own very special way. What do you think, Nathaniel?
I'm going to jump on the Harstem train for this one. I think this is the best chance that we have here for anybody that he could have played against to take a series, and I believe.
I don't make predictions because I don't know what I'm talking about, mainly. But I'm going to go for Harstem as well, man. I think this really is, I think this is his tournament. And, you know, HyuN's a veteran and someone I respect immensely, but it is the year of Harstem, I believe, guys. So, look, thanks for all your thoughts. Without any further ado, let's do it, guys. It's Harstem versus HyuN. Let's get a big pop from the crowd for the players and your casters. It is going to be cast by Todd and Nathaniel. Take it away, boys.
Thank you so much, Richard Lewis. It's time now, guys. It's time, Todd. We're going to have the last non-Korean player in this tournament up against one of the dominating players across across the foreign tournaments over the last few years. HyuN has been everywhere. Very few tournaments he hasn't placed his hands in. He's one of the guys that scored the most WCS points the last few years, just mostly outside of WCS system, period.
You know, it's funny, Harstem, he was once known as the round of 16 at DreamHack guy. Even back in the days where he wasn't like that well known, he already made quite a few round of 16. I think it was at least 2 or 3. And then every time he lost in that round of 16. Now, he's finally broken that. Made it to a round of 8 here. Maybe it's his time. I don't know.
The dream is alive, Todd.
I don't know. I'm not going to talk about partying yet, but up against HyuN, I do think he has a good chance.
Yeah, this is a very doable, guys. We've just been confirmed. We're in game. We're ready to kick this series off. We hope all of you are ready tuning in around the world and here in Tour as we're loaded into Vonnie Research Station in the top position. Your red Protoss player representing the Netherlands in Team Invasion, he is Harstem. And his opponent spawning in the bottom position, the blue Zerg from Team Rocket looking to upset our hero. He is HyuN!
Harstem has come a long way in this matchup. He's practiced it very hard, much like, you know, he had a period during which he played a lot versus Terran back when he struggled and he had to play a lot of Terrans in WCS. It's really funny, you know, how WCS dictates which matchup you're going to be practicing in, and in the end, you put in all that practice for one single matchup because you know who you have to prepare for. But then you come to a tournament like DreamHack and you don't really know who and what race you're going to be playing against. And all of that, tournament practice that you got for WCS in a very specific matchup can pay off big time. If you get matched up a lot, if you do good enough in the other matchups to keep on advancing. And now Harstem, this is the time to prove that all of this practice he got versus Zerg can do wonders for him.
Yeah, it's really, really important to note this DreamHack has been a shakeup. We've had a much more cutthroat round of 32. We didn't have that group stage, but this opened things up for this round of 8 with the best of 5 format to give Harstem a little more time to plan for this matchup that he'd be playing today. Already, HyuN trying to just throw him off his groove a little bit with this drone, trying to block him from placing that base. He won't be building anything like a proxy hatchery, but Todd, what does that extra map, what does this being a best of 5, what does this open up for Harstem as far as anything else he can mix in with the maps too?
Yeah, the possibility of seeing, very different builds. The thing is, most of the time, he plays fairly solid Protoss versus Zerg. We saw some very impressive games, not just against Cyril. Back in Challenger, he also played Cyril, I believe, twice in this tournament, beat him twice, then he beat Snoot. He's been very impressive, generally speaking, against Zerg. Not invincible, though. Lost maps here and there, had a few struggles on some of the maps when the game didn't go his way early on, but if he's able, to reach his comfort zone when he has, the ideal army that he likes with like the Blink Stalkers, the Colossi, the Sentries and all that, he's going to be able to do pretty good, even up against somebody like HyuN, who's very, very good himself. And look at this, HyuN opening here with the gold base. I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, that was the next thing I wanted to ask. If we look back to that series that he played versus Snoot, the map that he dropped against him was Vonnie Research Station. Snoot was able to get the fast gold base. He capitalized on it and shut Harstem's third down very successfully. Harstem has opened the same way that he opened against Snoot on that map, being with the Nexus first, into the gateway. What does he have to do this game to secure that third, or does he need to? Is there a different way he can play versus someone like HyuN compared to someone like Snoot? Yeah, definitely. I think make the right conclusions from what's happened against Snoot. It's going to be one way, to do much better. HyuN is actually someone, that will study his opponent's VODs, and if he sees something that's very good against someone, he's going to copy it, and he's going to try, to make it work for himself as well. So I'm pretty sure he's seen those games of Harstem versus Snoot. So if he goes for something similar, the thing is, Harstem's already going to have that in his head. So maybe, just make sure he's a little bit safer early on, prepare better defense, secure that third base, and then from there, start to go on the offensive himself. Yeah, Harstem's probe comes in, he sees the first extractor being taken as HyuN can start to make his way towards whatever tech he wants. And I'm kind of interested to know whether we see anything like fast speed. It seems to have been a pretty popular choice among Zergs lately, especially when it comes to the follow-up roach pushes once you get some drones up on the gold so that you can shut down a potential fast third of Harstem. Does Harstem need to go for the third base before his tech this game? Has he shown anything outside of the very standard gateway sentry opening into that third? There's so many different builds you can go for, really. It doesn't really matter which Nexus you go for. What matters is getting enough units next to it to make sure it doesn't get cancelled and dies. And then behind this, you can take appropriately. It looks like in this game, he wants to go for some aggression that's going to be pretty good, in forcing some links out of HyuN early on to weaken his economy. And behind this, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a 3 gates expand with 1 Forge. Most likely, you get +1, and then later on, you're going to +2 and Blink. Can still be, a number of things, though. If he starts dropping down more gates, you can do, as much as an 8 gates in this position here as Harstem. But look, he's taking 1 more assimilator here already. Let's see how many links he can force. Yeah. So far, HyuN's been very reluctant to make any. And he's going to take quite a bit of damage here if he underestimates this. Second Queen is out. That's really going to help. And he's really trying to prevent HyuN from just forcing out those drones. And the Queens are pushing back this Mothership Core. It's lost most of its hit points and shields. Oh boy, does not want to lose out. Harstem's getting very close. The Queen picks it off. Harstem loses his escape plan. And he starts 26 links. He realizes that there is not going to be a Mothership Core to shoot down those links or a Photon overcharge. He wants to make sure that not only he cancels that third base, but I think he's hoping to maybe get lucky, and catch this army of HyuN out in the middle of the map, then go for the counterattack, go up the ramp. If those links get in, it's pretty much over. I mean, in this position, how can Harstem possibly hope to hold on to this third base? Yeah, it's going to be tough. If he had a Forge and already had started walling off a cannon, I think he'd hold off very easily. But now he's already seeing a bunch of links. I don't think that the speed's going to be revealed as it finishes. Yeah, it's close, but it's not quite ready yet. So this Stalker should be able to escape. It's about, just close to 10 seconds off, picks off that Overlord. And the sentries are going to come down, but the thing is, there's a lot more links making their way over here, though. Yeah, it's starting to wall off a cannon. There is a way that he can hold this, but I mean, there's going to be so many links. And no, the second gate doesn't go down here. He's going to get surrounded if he moves out, and HyuN knows that. He's looking for the surround here. Harstem might just have to abort for now. He's
going up the ramp. I think he's going to try to defend it, and it might be a big mistake. It's going to be very hard to pull off. There's even more links coming in from behind, too.
Yeah, it cancels that third base, and with this many Zerglings out here and only having a sentry-based army, it'd be very difficult for him to retake this position.
Yeah.
With the lair just now starting, if HyuN can buy himself a bit more time, we might eventually see him drop some creep on that third base, and behind it, 15 drones in production. He's just going to finish saturating his base. He can go in pretty much any direction from here. We saw very similar setup from Snoot. He just capitalized on the denial of the third base, and, well, at this point, I'm not really sure how Harstem's supposed to step out of his main.
Yeah, he's going to have to wait until he has, you know, the critical mass of units that he needs to finally do that. The tech for HyuN is very, very delayed. Harstem surely is going to be trying to retake that third base here momentarily. He had the appropriate reaction, by the way. After some time, he dropped down a lot of pylons in advance, realizing that he was going to be supply blocked upon having to cancel the pylon and Nexus. So right now, he's just waiting until he thinks he has enough. And now might be the time to restart. The third Nexus blinks on the way. And with the 2 additional gates he's made, he's going to be able to start getting a lot of Blink Stalkers.
And Ling runs in and blocks the Nexus from being placed, forcing out a lot of force fields. The sentry's getting stuck in. He runs by into the main base. +1 attack just about to finish up here, but he's forced to use the warp-ins in home. He's managed to disperse the probes. He's denied mining on one of the assimilators now, forces that photon overcharge, that precious Nexus energy. And behind all of this, he still has not yet started that third base, just now getting it underway.
Big, big mistake here by Harstem. Already lost 2 probes, had to pull some of them from the middle line. He's having to warp in even more Zealots right now, which is what the unit that you get to defend against Zerglings like this is not ideal.
42 Zerglings in production.
42, that's a massive amount. I think he might just want to go for an all-in. He's delayed his third base enough to possibly go for, you know, a huge amount of Hydralisks and Zergling, go for a timing. And I mean, he has +1 melee too, with all of the Zerglings that he's made. He has actually an incredible amount of Zerglings.
Yeah, well, basically,
58.
basically looks like a desperation Dark Shrine coming out of Harstem, trying to open up the playbook a little wider so he can make something happen in this game. But just now, he's situating himself with that cannon, trying to get the extra gateways up here. But you said it, you said it perfectly, Todd. At this point, he's made enough off the gold base and his third outside, now even taking that fourth base on the left side, to put out enough units to potentially just end it here.
HyuN completely bypassing that pocket expansion here on Viney Research Station. The Rotron was spotted. I think he's going to see the Hydra then here as well. And Harstem right now. Is he able to get to the right conclusion here, which is, well, a lot of units are being made. He's probably going to get hit. Thing is, I don't think there is force in bases. If 1 DT is sent to each middle line, there is only 1 in the gold, which is, I mean, even if it's there, you can still kill some drones. There is only a Queen that's going to be there for defense. So if HyuN's across the map, while the DTs hit, assuming Harstem is going to send a few, you know, to the middle lines. Remember, he doesn't have a proxy pylon.
Yeah, he does have to warp in from his own base. They have to cross the map, and if they pass by anywhere that...
They could be spotted.
Anywhere he's looking, yeah, exactly. If they pass by anywhere that he's looking, he could see that shimmer and realize, ah, okay, we'll just, you know, bring the Overseer back, slow down a little bit.
Don't kill the Ling. Just see like a unit disappear on the minimap, you're like, well...
Well, you know, there's only so many ways I can lose units without seeing anything kill them. And with the fourth base being here, that won't be the big target.
Does he go with everything on that base here?
What do you think?
No,
Is it splitting?
It's better to split them in each base and slay
Yeah.
drones. If you can kill 20 drones with 3 DTs, you're like forcing the Zerg to attack into you. And actually, the positioning right now wasn't great for Harstem. He needs to prepare his army better for that engagement. The DTs are going to engage.
No,
this might trigger an attack here from HyuN. He's very committed to this. He has the single Overseer. If that gets sniped, he can warp in more DTs.
Now he's coming in. There's the force field trying to grab these Lings. The Lings do escape. The Overseer gets picked off. He can try to warp in more defensive Dark Templars with this. He has 2 more coming in now. Warping in Zealots. The cannon is picked off. The Hydralisk are still willing away. He needs to pull the Stalkers back. Now the Dark Templar, 5 of them getting to work. On top of this Zerg army, Harstem is slicing and dicing HyuN's army. Another Overseer slips over, barely any hit points. He does get vision. He's going to start to clean them up, but they've done a tremendous amount of damage. And at the same time, 22 drones lost back in HyuN's base.
Yeah, with the photon overcharge and the reinforcements, Harstem's trying to hold on here at that third base.
He targets with the Nexus on the Overseer, barely alive still. Another Dark Templar gets warped in. He can bring the Overseer forward just a little bit once again, though.
Oh, that saves pretty big, actually. That DT just fell here, and all of a sudden, he looks at that third base, going to get sniped. Photon overcharge has expired. Harstem is evacuating. He doesn't have enough. GG. HyuN takes game number 1 here.
Harstem, he threw the deep ball trying to get back into the game at the very last moment. It looked like he had the chance. He did everything he needed to do back in HyuN's base. He killed over basically a base worth of drones, and at the same time, the Dark Templars that he had were very close to getting that kill. That Overseer just barely escaping on the right side. Like, he targeted it with the Nexus, and then it just had something like 10 hit points left. Yeah. That alone could have made a huge difference in being able to actually win that game.
If he had been able to shield his army better from the Hydralisks, with a good set of force field and preserved most of it alive while the Nexus was tanking the damage. I think the DTs would have done, a better job of taking everything down very quickly. But I guess, HyuN, it's very fortunate for him that he had the second Overlord nearby, by the way. Because he didn't have Overlord speed. Imagine if he didn't have any second Overlord nearby and he can't remake an Overseer, then he has to pull back and he gives enough time to Harstem to basically recover, get a big army, and then hold the next attack, in which case he's in a great position.
Yeah, because then HyuN can't really rebuild his army since he just lost a bunch of drones.
I think he might have overmade walkers, by the way, here, also Harstem. Considering he was facing a Zerg that was making a lot of units and he was committing a lot to the DTs, it's pretty obvious. You can already know that you're going to get hits. He had a massive saturation on that third base. If he had made a few less probes and more units, maybe even some cannons, and he barely holds, again, he's in a great position.
Yeah, even as a few of the tiny things, when he first made that push into Harstem's base, a lot of the Zerglings got force field in, but there was just one space right by the Nexus. He was able to pull a lot of them out and wait for those force fields to go away, and those are the buffer for the Hydralisks. And I think if you're able to fight, especially with the Photon Overcharge against those Hydras, before you lose the DTs, that really, there's so many different ways that it can play out off of just the tiniest movements.
When you get 4 Dark Templars like this and end up getting sniped before most of the Zerg army is dead, well, a lot of the time you're going to lose. Maybe if he had seen, the second Overseer coming in and he had more Falcons, it might have been a lot better because it was mostly Hydralisks led there. And, even though they do decent damage against Archons, they would be shooting at Archons rather than, 2 Archons rather than the Stalkers or even the Nexus. So the thing is, he couldn't have known. And again, this was a big part of HyuN being able to win.
Yeah, tough spot for our Dutch player here as we are loaded into map number 2 here at the DreamHack Open, round of 8. It's going to be a very tough climb now, of course, as it's a pretty comfortable position for HyuN to be in, Todd.
Yeah, definitely.
Here we are loaded into Echo, as you can see, in the top left position, down 0-1 in this best of 5. Give it up for the Red Protoss. He's Harstem. Facing off against the Korean Zerg in the bottom right from Team Rocket, he is HyuN.
I'm almost disappointed that we know that Harstem is singing in the start of these games. Wouldn't it be cooler if he was telling himself, yeah, you're the best, yeah, it's your year.
How do we know that's not what the song is, Maybe Harstem brings his mixtape to all the events, you never know.
Yeah, I know his music taste. And it's not that great. Okay, so far, no gateway. Looks Harstem wants to go for another. It feels like HyuN knows exactly how Harstem likes to play.
Do you see this? Is he doing this because he expects Nexus first, or because it's a sign of respect? He wants to make sure he knows for a fact that nothing super crazy is happening.
No. I think he knows Harstem enough to know that Harstem loves to go for Nexus first, and now having been able to see exactly how Harstem opens, it's very likely that HyuN is just going to go, for the double hatch, then maybe sometimes even gas, then pull. But he can play pretty greedy himself. A lot of Protosses, actually, they've been making the gateway without any gas before starting the Nexus, just to be safe against a hatch block. I think that going for hatch block for HyuN in one of the games could be one of the great things that you can do, because if you skip the gateway and the forge and you go straight for a Nexus and somebody plants down a hatch at your natural, it's going to be so annoying. You're going to have to pull probes. It's going to be very hard to handle right from the start.
Not a fun place to be. And as you said, HyuN, knowing that there's nothing Harstem can do to get aggressive against him at the start of this game, goes very safely for that third hatchery and start up his spawning pool pretty late. He can go into a pretty similar follow-up. Do you feel that the map, Echo, do you feel that this really changes the potential army composition relative to Vonnie Research Station, the first game in this series?
On this map, you might be a little bit more encouraged to stay on Stalkers if you want to be aggressive, or if the opponent's going to be aggressive, which happens almost every single time because it's such a small map. So on this map, a lot of the time, you're not going to be seeing Colossus tech, which Harstem actually really appreciates. He loves to play with that. And, not everybody does. Hero, recently in Kespa Cup, the winner
the Koreans lately.
Yeah, he said that going for Colossus makes you too weak against pretty much any timing, any strong timing that Zerg can do. And after getting overpowered, I guess, in many of his games, he decided to stop bothering going for Colossus, and he's been playing mostly with Blink Stalkers. So we'll see if Harstem, plays similarly here on the map where, again, the rush distance is so short and you can hit very quickly, both as a Zerg or Protoss.
Yeah, and on this map, too, you have so many ramps everywhere. As
what
can he do with these lings this early on? Harstem's opening with the Stalker. He doesn't have
slow
speed.
links. Nobody expects that. At 12, he keeps on making links. He's going to go across the map, try to go into the natural, kill as many probes as he can, maybe catch either the Stalker or the Zealot that's going to be out, which in this case, I don't think he made a Zealot here. Harstem, so it's going to be a single Stalker. Oh, he made a Zealot.
He's got the Zealot on the main ramp.
Hey, it's not bad, especially since he's getting the Mothership Core.
Yeah, Harstem gets a pretty nice worker lead based on this. Like, HyuN still has not
Let's see if he can keep it.
Drones.
Can he keep it? It's going to be very important.
I think with the Mothership Core here, like as long as he doesn't move it out, by having the Zealot and the Stalker, like realistically,
but HyuN is supply blocked. 2 Overlords finishing now. Yeah, I think he's going to get drones.
He couldn't even build drones behind it. Yeah, now he starts them up, but this is still pretty good for Harstem.
Yeah,
even off the 2 larva injects, he actually can't build enough drones to put himself even again.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't know. I don't know how much this can slow down or kill probes. And he's going to place the Zealot very nicely here. The Mothership Core's coming back behind this. There is a sentry. Harstem should lose as little as possible here.
And that was a beautiful block. Quite a few of the Zerglings went down against that Zealot. They're going to try to focus down the probes. They can just mineral walk their way back into the main. Looks like he's going to lose 2 probes.
Look at his Stalker. He's dancing between the links. Finally going to get surrounded.
Stuck by that pylon.
But you really don't care. Like if you can kill something like 16 Zerglings and lose 1 Stalker and preserve your probe counts, you don't really care. Even that Zealot dying, I don't think he's that massive of a deal. As long as Harstem doesn't lose that many probes, he's going to be okay. And he lost 4 so far. And in the meantime, HyuN's up to 39. So it almost feels as if this game kind of reset from here.
Yeah.
Like these numbers, they're like
he goes for the force fields, pins in just a few of those links. His warp gate is finishing up though. He's got that 3rd gas in the natural expansion, now taking the 4th. The Overlord comes in. HyuN doesn't really see too much. He already saw the gateways that were warping in because the Zerglings went up the ramp. He saw the Forge. There's nothing hidden from him at this point. So it really comes down to where does Harstem want to go. And with the fast +1, I think it's pretty common for Protosses, especially with the current meta, to just wait a little bit, get the Twilight Council, take that 3rd base, and make a playoff +2 blink.
And then spam the S button and get that beautiful unit that's named the Stalker.
There's some players that make that look like it just insane, you know, because you don't. It's hard for me to describe, but it's like you know a little.
They make it look broken.
They make it look really broken. I think
it's funny that Harstem, by the way, didn't make the gateways in his wall originally. He's finally getting them there now. He made him up the ramp. That was
Do you think he was worried about those lings?
No,
Maybe just going for a direct cancel on them, or no?
Just a bit of it, I don't know, fancy play.
A preference type thing.
But I need to be careful with his wall later on when he moves out. We saw the mistake in the previous game with, not a Zealots being on hold position in the ramp, which actually, when you play top Korean Zergs like this, especially guys like Life and, all these guys, if you don't have your wall sealed at all time, the one time you don't have it sealed, a lot of the time, links are going to get in and then they're just going to slow you down economically. And in the previous game, that's really what's helped put HyuN ahead.
Yeah, but all things said and done, in this particular game, if we compare it once again to the last map, HyuN put away a lot of his larva early on into that pressure that he threw into the natural expansion. Yeah. But Harstem also got his 3rd up unabated. But no forced cancel. He's been allowed to, for the most part, do what he wants to do.
HyuN got up to 73 drones very comfortably in this game, if you look at it. Look, he's starting the Hydra, then now he's not unhappy with how things have went. He's starting a 4th base.
So would you say it's relatively even, or maybe a slight lead for HyuN based on the worker count?
It's normal for Zerg to be ahead in supply at this stage of the game because he made a bunch of approaches, but I think HyuN is definitely happy with his walker count right now. And Harstem, I mean, he's getting Blink kind of late, +2 as well. I like the situation a little bit better for HyuN right now. The thing is, how is he going to use that? You make 1 or 2 wrong attacks, you get hit by a few very good force fields, and you're in trouble. He needs to not let that happen. He needs to make very calculated attacks or harassments. I wonder what the Spire is for. Does he actually want to go for something like a Mutas?
Yeah, it's very interesting because you mentioned that Harstem's not the kind of guy to shy away from Colossus, but we know he's not making his way in that direction.
Yeah, not yet. I think it would be a little bit early now to go into Colossus in this game. Maybe the Robo Bay will go down right about now.
He sees the 4th base too. So at this point, while he's working away on the rocks, he does have some time now to reposition his army a bit. He doesn't want to get pulled too far away from that natural in case HyuN manages to kill the Zealot and actually swing in there. That Mothership Core Photon overcharges the Nexus. He's trying to get a little bit of work done here. 1 force field, basically ready to pinch that army in half. But, this is a pretty cheap army, Todd, and that Spire's getting close to completing. He's got a lot of gas banked up. But he also could go to Hydras.
HyuN just made a bunch of spores, by the way. He's being a little bit paranoid about the potential for like something like DTs. I don't think he was too scared of air. Robo Bay is gonna go down, so Harstem still favorizing that style here with the Colossus, but Mutas are gonna start here. How many can he make? Wow, quite a few, 9. If he starts flying into the main, you know, and going to the natural third base, this can be great here for HyuN. The thing is, there's already a lot of big stalkers. Harstem, in this kind of situation where you have a Zerg massing pretty much tier 2 units for a very long time, the closer you get to maxing out, the better in the position you're going to be. And look at this, we're already on 143 supply. So if he doesn't take any damage from this, shuts it down, Harstem's going to be in a great position, but he doesn't spot it. He's not going to be in position.
Now, when the core of your army is so many stalkers, taking the head-on engagements is where you're going to be favored. But his army's out on the map. He does have the War Prism going in the top right, so he should be able to pull everything over. I mean, you'd think the Mutalisks would turn around for this, but he's getting ready to jump into the natural. There are stalkers here positioned.
Yeah. Okay, he knows about these Mutas. He's going to start warping his stalkers across the map. That means he's not looking at his army most likely, and he's going to engage. He knew that.
Steps in. Okay, force fields away the majority of the roaches. The lings do slip in. He has the Guardian Shield as well. I mean, he kills all of the most of the Zerglings at least. He hasn't yet engaged the Roach Hydra. Now he's going to recall back into the main base. What's at the third to defend?
Not much, I think. A cannon is going to start warping in some stalkers there, but Harstem is already started using a few probes. That hasn't lost that many, really. Just 5 so far.
Yeah, he is being chased, though, with the few active forces he has out on the map, and this is where those mutas really pull you around. And to be perfectly honest, the contamination on the robotics facility still buys HyuN a lot in this game, since he hasn't been adding on any more mutalisks. He's gone straight into Hydralisks, an army composition that deals, you know, on paper better against stalkers.
Oh, the force field is going to be very important here. HyuN baits them and then goes back a little bit. Everything escapes. Harstem messing up. 14 probes have died. He's still on 57, though. I think it's enough. He's making a few, you know, but again, if Harstem maxes out here and keeps his army alive, he's going to be in a great position, but he needs to hold on to this attack here.
Yeah, he's barely hanging on there. Big Daddy Colossus is going to pop out. He does not, I don't believe, have that range upgrade. Just trying to get to work and help out against these Hydras as much as possible. Mothership Core in the third base does get picked up. I believe the cannon is also dead. That Colossus is running away without the range. Hydra's trying to snipe it. He's overwhelming this army. He's got a great spread. More Stalkers warped in. He's going for the probes in the third base. The Colossus is doing everything that he can, but it looks like it's finally exposed a little bit too much. He's running off into the main. It's pretty crazy, Todd.
Yeah, I think Harstem's going to hold, and he's taking quite a bit of damage, especially in terms of worker count, but he's still at 57 somehow, and Harstem, remember, the more army he can keep alive, the better it's going to be for him. He lost his entire sentry count, though. Yeah, he kind of needs to replace that, and you know.
That hero Colossus, though. Yeah, it's a big game changer. To be able to just get that, it soaked up so much damage as well and drew away a lot of attention from that army, especially since he split it off. The War Prism is still alive.
Oh, Templar Archive is going down. I think Harstem might be thinking he's afraid of a hive here, which is not the case. I don't think there is a hive.
I mean, is there any other potential for what he could be mixing in? Maybe Storm complementing the army? He's only just now starting Colossus range.
He can't afford to go for Storm. He needs to mass on Stalkers in Colossus. That's the way you beat, you know, a tier 2 army. But right now he has no scout across the map, so he thinks there is going to be a hive and Vipers. He's misreading the game, and this might actually cost him the game. Look at this. Thermal Lance only starts now. He's remaking the Mothership Core. He's delayed everything because of that Templar Archive, with which, I mean, if he starts getting Templars here, he's going to be in so much trouble. Even with Storm, even if he gets Storm, that would mean his army is so small in comparison to HyuN's, when HyuN's finally going to be maxed out, and HyuN is going to go for the Roach Hydra Corruptor. He's going to play it old school. He's going to go for timing, and I'm really worried right now for Harstem.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the best thing that's going to help against that, you know, in a roundabout way, if he could afford it, would be Archons, because the Corruptors usually clump up going for those Colossi. Oh, he wants to take it long.
If HyuN attacks here, that's... Oh my god, the army, man. 121 against 85. Harstem, he needs more units.
Now, he's just now started Storm, immediately putting that Chrono on it. The Mothership Core does not have much energy. The Templar that he's warped in do not have much energy. He's a long way off of Storm. He needs time, Todd. Does he... You said it earlier.
He lost
a lot of sentries earlier on. He doesn't have that many force fields to actually block this army from pushing in.
HyuN delayed the attack a lot here, and Harstem's not going to be happy when he sees the amount of Corruptors that are going to take out his Colossi oh so quickly with the army on the ground. I mean, that many Roaches and Hydralisks against these few Stalkers, you can have Storm or not, and in this case it's more likely to be not.
Yeah, he starts a Stargate, anticipating this game to go on a little bit longer, but I don't know that that's going to be the case. The Corruptors immediately take one down, going for 2. He's grabbed 3 of them, but the 3 Colossi need to defend this. He contaminates the Colossi. He's moving in on top of them. The Stalkers are able to fight on the high ground, trying to force field away. 2 Colossi, very low on hit points, warping in more Stalkers. There's only 3 Corruptors left, but it looks like the last Colossus goes down, and HyuN takes game number 2.
Harstem misread the situation here, Nathanias.
More units would have helped more instead of the Storm.
Yeah.
He never finished Storm, that's true.
When a Zerg goes for that many Roach Hydralisks and then Mutas, a lot of the time he's not going to have the gas to start a Hive, to get a lot more tech or even saturate his bases a lot, which in this case is what Harstem thought had happened. At the end here, he even threw it on his targets. I think he might have been afraid of Broodlords.
Yeah.
Man, there was no Hive. It was way too early. If instead of getting that Templar Archive, 4th base and Stargates, if he made only units, I think he would have had a chance to hold here.
And even then, it's still really tricky because you're getting into that phase of the game where your main base is mining out, your natural is even pretty low on resources.
Yeah, the thing is, if he maxes out, I think he walks over that army of HyuN and he just wins the game right out.
Oh, you know Protoss a little better than
if you max out as Protoss here with Blinkstalkers and Colossus, and especially he had +3, by the way.
He didn't really have any other tech to switch into. The Colossi would have dealt with most anything that HyuN could have thrown at him.
It deals with the ground. Even though there was going to be Corruptors, he would have... I think HyuN would have lost everything on the ground, and then Blinkstalkers, you just blink back.
Even with as few units as Harstem had, he still did a really good job of dealing with the Corruptors when that fight happened. Towards the end of the battle, although, of course he lost everything, but by the time the Colossi were dying, there really weren't that many Corruptors. He did a good job of focus firing them down. If he had more...
that's better for the Zerg when that happens. Because he still got rid of the Colossus that's almost irreplaceable.
Yeah. As long as you kill them, it doesn't really matter.
Harstem here in a bit of trouble in this series, Nathanias.
Yeah, HyuN just one map away from making it to, well, I guess another very, very difficult match for him, of course. But Harstem needs to win 3 maps in a row to keep the dream alive here. DreamHack, it's going to be very, very difficult for him as we make our way towards map number 3. I have to say, is this a moment where Harstem switches it up? Does he pull out something absolutely crazy? Do we see some... does he just say, screw it, and pull out something he doesn't do too much?
I think he showed a few good things, but it's just, he's playing general that's not solid enough, and it feels like he doesn't have that good of a read in the game right now as to what's happening. Those links, didn't really see them coming. Maybe put a little bit more effort towards scouting, sending some hallucinated phoenixes across the map, because now imagine, he lost all of his sentries.
If he knew there was no Hive, right?
Yeah, you just max out. Blinkstalkers and Colossus, that's all he needs. And then the A button.
Thanks, Todd.
Against the tier 2 Zerg army, the thing is, it's so hard to know. Again, we see everything here as observers. Well, as is Funka. Funka makes sure we miss nothing.
Yeah, he makes it too easy for us, to be perfectly honest. It's one of the few situations where you wish you had a worse observer. We're loaded into map number 3, guys. We're playing on Expedition Lost. In the top right position, he needs 3 maps to stay alive. He is Harstem! His opponent, who has, joined a lot of other Zergs and using them gold bases. Maybe we'll see it this time around. 1 map away from moving on. He is HyuN.
Let's see if he sends a drone somewhere here to maybe take the gold or go for a hatch block or even the Nexus block.
Or just scout. He's moved out with the early drone in the first 2 games.
Oh, scout. Scout's not worth it.
Not in this game.
You need to do something with the drone, man. If you play against a cheesy Protoss, I think it makes sense to scout.
He didn't really do too much with it in the other 2
he blocked
games.
the Nexus a lot, though. Fully knowing that Harstem was most likely going for the Nexus. If you're playing against a Protoss like San, who loves to open gateway quickly, it's not worth it at all to scout, because then you're going to just put yourself behind economically. And a gas here.
Oh, boy. So
is it time for that speedling, man?
HyuN already looking at changing the pace of this series at the very beginning here. Harstem kind of playing into the expectations that you brought up, and potentially HyuN's been looking at this whole series, which is that Nexus first. But does this hit fast enough to knock this down? If Harstem sends a probe out after starting the Nexus or starting his gateway, is there anything he can do about this?
Yeah, definitely. You can wall up the ramp, get enough units out to defend. The thing is, there's still going to be the backdoor to worry about, and then HyuN behind this. This is not necessarily all in. He can macro quite nicely. The gateway placement, I'm not a big fan of, those units are going to take a very long time to get in there.
He has been building them in his main. Yeah. He's been building them in his main a lot. Is that something that HyuN takes into account?
Maybe, hardly. A lot of the time, I don't think
I'm just thinking about it in terms of his wall setup for the speedlings.
Yeah, the thing about that gateway is that the units will take forever to reach on the big ramp around the natural for Harstem. He's going to scout the gas. He knows that speed just started. A lot of the time, you can time it very, very well. Pretty much exactly when he's going to finish. And with that second pylon of the ramp here for Harstem, All he has to do is wall it off, with a Zealot, then maybe a Stalker, and then get a very quick Mothership Core. And he's going to be able to defend nicely against the Lynx. If HyuN commits a lot to the Zerglings, though, if he gets a whole bunch, he might be able to snipe the Nexus.
Yeah.
Which can be good.
And on a map like this, with the rush distance not being particularly long and having the fast speedling opening, it'll be very difficult for Harstem to re-secure any ground without building a lot of units. And we've seen Protoss players that get knocked back, even on this map, and they're forced to throw up the extra gateways, they delay all of their tech, and of course, without the money, you can't stop the later pushes.
Is it time for the special play-by-play, Nathanias?
I don't know, man. I mean, these Zerglings are going to make life pretty tough for him. The Zealot gets over here, he slips by the wall, grabs that probe, and now he can run in, he can see everything, he can try to sack these, picking up a few more, and with the other Lings that he has, in fact, just dancing around that Zealot, it opens up for any of the follow-up Lings to get in once speed is done.
Yeah.
He could actually hit the Zealot from both sides, maybe he could kill it.
Yeah, the thing is, if probes are pulled and then Harstem re-walls behind his core and pylon, he's going to be okay. But right now, the cybernetics core, the Mothership Core, sorry, he's finally going to finish. He started a second Zealot rather than a Stalker or a Sentry. Right now, with this amount of Lings in the main, this is getting a little bit scary. That second Nexus is going to die. HyuN can drone up comfortably behind this, but oh my god, Harstem moved out of position. A lot of Zerglings are in the main now against 3 Zealots.
Oh, he pulled the Zealot out. He pulls it out again towards that natural, but more and more Lings are continuing to cross the map. That Zealot, there's not a whole lot he can do. He's actually going to surround the 2 Zealots inside the main base. One's trying to cover that ramp, but once these 2 die, he can focus on the last one, and the rest of his Lings can continue to pour in. He's got only Zerglings on the production tab, Todd.
I think this might be it, Nathanias. A Sentry came out. I think he's going to have to use that force field quickly, but then the probes are going to get sniped by those Zerglings. HyuN is trading right now. He's getting still more Zerglings behind this. HyuN's committing everything he has to this. If Harstem holds, he's going to be in an okay position. Lost 10 probes so far, but he's still ahead in workers.
He still has that Nexus. If he continues to push the Zerglings on these forces and he can clean them up, then he starts to open up opportunities for him. But that cybernetics core, Warp Gate is a pipe dream.
Oh my god, he used the photon overcharge on the natural, so there's not going to be anything in the main here. Right now, probes are taking on Zerglings, but there's just as many Zerglings as there are probes. Harstem.
The Zealot dies too. The Sentry's going to pop out. He's trying to use this, hold positions the probes around the Sentry. It's a really nice play, but he's lost 23 probes in this position. Now he's down 6 total. GG's called. HyuN takes the 3-0 and moves on.
HyuN absolutely smashes through his round of 8 match here. And Harstem, once again here, this was a case of not knowing whether or not there were Zerglings behind this. He probably thought there was drones being made. He was like, well, I'm going to get 3 Zealots. It's going to be enough for initial few Lings. But in the end, there was a lot more coming in behind this. And HyuN winning the mind game once again and taking the 3-0 victory.
Yeah. Did a really good job of bullying his opponent in that position.
And we're going to have an interview with Smix. Take it away, Smix.
Thank you very much, Todd. We started with a 3-0 from Parting over Rain, and now another 3-0 from HyuN over Harstem. HyuN, you expressed some confidence in your pre-match interview, but I mean, did you also expect that this would be such a smooth ride for you? 아까 전에 인터뷰했을 때는 자신감 있다고, 그리고 요즘 경기력도 자신감 있다고 이렇게 얘기를 했었는데 그래도 이렇게 3대 0으로 너무 좀 쉽게 올라갔잖아요. 이렇게 쉽게 올라갈 줄 예상하셨나요?
제가 하스템 선수한테 상대 전적이 너무 많이 앞서 있어가지고 개인적으로는 자신 있었고 포커스 자체를 일단 레인 대 파팅 승자를 무조건 생각을 하고 있었어요. 그래서 무조건 8강을 이긴다는 생각으로 했고 앞으로가 이제 중요할 것 같아요.
So he says, in terms of this match I just had against Harstem, I was just up so much in head-to-head score, I honestly wasn't worried at all. My focus from the beginning of this top 8 has been the winner of Rain and Parting. And so I think that's what I've been focusing on. I thought of the round of 8 as an absolute win for me, no doubt. Now, HyuN, Parting in his interview said that he is the much better player than you. He also said that he thought he could get to the finals very easily. He's not worried about you at all. What do you have to say about that? 아까 전에 원희삭 선수와 인터뷰했을 때는 고석현 선수보다는 더 잘하는 선수다. 그리고 결승전까지 가기에는 이제 너무 쉽다 이렇게 얘기를 했었는데 무슨 말 하고 싶을 것 같은데요?
이삭이가 이제 개인적으로 아끼는 동생인데 이미 우승을 했다고 생각을 하는 것 같아요. 근데 이제 4강에서 이제 저랑 하게 되는데 일단 뭐 누가 이기든 좋은 경기를 했으면 좋겠어요.
So HyuN so mannered, he says, you know, parting is a younger brother-like friend. I really adore and care for him a lot. Looking at how he's talking and how he's acting, I can tell that he already thinks that he's won the whole thing. But in terms of meeting him in the semifinals, no matter who comes out on top, because I care for him so much, I hope that it's just really good games. And before I send you off, HyuN, I know recently you've been in Korea. You were able to train there for a long time. How do you feel about your time in Korea? I know in 2013 we saw Spider HyuN. You were so dominant. Is Spider HyuN back? 이제 2013년에 스파이더 HyuN 진짜 너무 압도적이게 잘했고 최근에 또 한국에서도 연습 많이 했었잖아요. 그래서 스파이더 HyuN 다시 돌아왔나요?
일단 최근에 경기력이 많이 올랐다고 생각을 하고 자신 있어 하고 있고요 지금. 그리고 이렇게 오랜만에 많은 팬분들 앞에서 게임을 하니까 더 재밌고 오랜만에 좀 긴장도 됐던 것 같아요.
He says, yeah, I definitely think that I'm more confident now because I'm more confident in my play style. But more than that, I want to say that I feel like it's been so long since I've played in such a large crowd like this. Because of you guys, I'm having so much fun and I'm actually feeling a lot of nerves. So thank you guys very much. Now, congratulations again, HyuN. Best of luck in the semifinals against Parting. We'll see who comes out on top there. But before we get there, we need to head on to our next quarterfinal match. We'll head there after this short commercial break. It'll be Marine King versus Gumio.